Welcome to episode 1, season 2 of Have You Made It? The podcast where I speak to Northern artists about what they make, how they make it, and their take on making it as an artist. If you're here because you listened to season 1, welcome back. It's been a good year actually since I last published the last episode of season 1. I'm so ready for this season. The artists and creatives that we're speaking to, I just can't wait to share the conversations with them. So I'm proper buzzing to get stuck into this season. If you're new here, the concept of Have You Made It is that I speak to artists who are from the North or based in the North about their work, their process, how they got to where they are, and if they feel like they've made it or what making it as an artist or creative means to them. Essentially anyone who is just making good shit in the North and we want to talk to them about it. And that is essentially what UPNORF is all about as well. So I recommend going checking us out at upnorf.co.uk or UPNORF magazine on Instagram. So episode 1, season 2, let's go. I'm speaking with today Em Bentzen Kraft, who is a painter and ceramic artist based in York. It felt fitting to have the first episode as someone who is based in York, because that's where I'm based now. So I really wanted to find some contemporary artists in York and speak to them. First up is Em Bentzen Kraft. She is sick. Her work is unreal. At the time of us speaking in this episode, it was the week before her solo exhibition at Ossie Studio in York. So we chatted a lot about that, a lot about her time at Central St Martin's, and just also about the inspiration behind her work, and her take on making it is great. Such a good conversation. In this episode, we literally get straight into it. Like, we were just talking immediately, so I just started recording, and that was that. I hope that you find it interesting and inspiring. And yeah, let's go. Episode 1, season 2, Have You Made It? Have you ever done a podcast before?
I recorded some for my
You
uni.
used to do.
I had my own one, yeah.
I remember now. I remember you telling me.
had
What
like
was
a
your
little
podcast?
co-host. It's called, what was it called? Something. It was a pot pun because it was about pottery. What was it fucking called? It was called like the podcast, but like it was essentially during lockdown, because the students like didn't have the vibe of being in a group studio. It was shit. So they didn't have like the art school experience that you're there for, of like bouncing ideas off and like hearing about other people's work, and then like looking at other people's crits when they happen, which is like a big part of like understanding how to pitch your artwork. So we would then have them come on and talk about their projects as if it was a crit, and then we kind of workshop talking
so
about
nice.
So they could practice being able to talk about the work, because otherwise literally couldn't do it, other than a really stale Zoom interaction with the professor. And it's just like, that's not it. That's not what it's about. And then it meant as well that then like when they were working at home, they could listen to their peers talking about their work, because I think that's what inspires you. You're like, oh, they're doing a really cool thing, I'll talk to them, it sounds similar to my project, kind of thing.
That's like one of the coolest parts about a crit, is like hearing other people talk about their work.
I love it.
So even if you're not like on that podcast talking about it, then even listening to it is helpful to you.
And I think also, so in our uni, when I did ceramic designs, it was one large studio for all 3 years, and then the master's students. So you could see what the third years were making as a first year, and it was like, that was really important. And I think being able to see like all the crits for them would happen in the studio, and they would like lay out all their stuff and like their test tiles and their sketchbooks and stuff. So at breaks you could like go and essentially have a little nosy, and it was so good to be like, okay, that's what I think good third year work looks like, and I can now aspire to do that.
So you got like, you still got all that experience, even though you were at uni during COVID times?
I was in my final year. Yeah, I was in my final year, and it was, so March, when Easter break happened, the third years were allowed to come in for Easter break to make for 2 weeks. And that was just about to happen. And then they came into the studio, because it was like rumbles going on, because we were in London. So everyone's obviously like you know what's going on. But we were kind of like, oh, it's not really a big thing. It will blow over. And then our studio tech came in and said, right, guys, you're going to have to like leave. The uni's like closing like right now. And we were there and it was like in the middle of the afternoon and we were like, what the fuck is going on? It was like apocalypse. It was really weird. And then they made us like wrap up, because ceramics, obviously, if you wrap it well enough and wet it well enough, you can come back to it. So we were like, okay, well, if we're out for a few weeks, we can just like start working again. So we'll just make it really wet and put bin bags over it. And I was making these 6 foot tall pots. So I'd spent fucking ages doing that. And then I wrapped them and then they were like, oh, and then it was like, what, 4 months later or something before we were, it was long.
Did you ever see those pots again?
And break them up and put them in the recycling. Because they like weren't fired. I fired 2 of them and they're currently in my parents' back garden. But no, I went in and I had to like break them up and because they were moldy, the ones that didn't get fired.
At what point did they let you back in? Like how long had it been since you made them?
I can't remember. I think it was quite a few months though. Because it was like after lockdown, because we went into the lockdown. Because like, I remember because we got kicked out of the studio, but then we all went to the pub because like pubs were still open. So we were all like, what the fuck are we meant to do? So it's like, it was really weird. And then my mate got a phone call from her boss, who's a pub landlord, who was like, you're fired because we're going to have to close. And she was like, what the fuck is going on? It was really weird. Like loads of people like got let go from their bar jobs like that day and got like kicked out of their studio. And there was no like understanding of like how long is this going to go on for. And then I got back and like all of the pots were moldy because obviously it's like earth. And they were wet and enclosed in bags.
That is crazy. I can't even imagine being in my final year of uni. I mean, especially at your uni where you went, which we'll discuss in a moment. But like, I feel like the final year, your degree shirt, everything like that is like crucial.
Yeah.
For your degree and what you were doing. Yeah. So I can't even imagine.
And the momentum was like so high because like at March time, you're like, you've done your initial crit, which was like you do kind of 2 projects is the way they structure it. And it was like the initial crit and then you do your final projects and you're like gearing up for your final projects at this point. You know the show's coming. It comes in like June. So like it's time to make some work. And then it was just like, okay, go home. And then I went home to my parents outside of London and I was just like, can I swear on this? I'm swearing so much.
Yeah, gosh, you can.
But yeah, no, it was nuts. And then like trying to keep that momentum up. Like I ended up doing like a moving image piece to talk about what I would have done. But like I had like my parents like throwing bed sheets up in the air and shit to like make cool images. Like that's my dad. He was like working from home and my mum was working in John Lewis. So like when the lockdown lifted, she had to start going in quite quickly. Because she was just doing shop assistant stuff. No, she was working Waitrose. That was it. They moved everyone to Waitrose. But she's like coming home from a Waitrose shift and I'm like, Mum, can you just stand over there and throw this across the room and like I'm gonna film it? She was like, what's going on? I was like,
or it's like flashbacks to like being in like primary school and doing like an art project or something, like, you know, like doing stuff at home and making your parents do stuff for you. And like
I had to paper mache a pot because I needed something that was like the profile of the ceramics, because I had to talk about the form that I was going to do. So my final like piece was made out of paper mache and chicken wire for a ceramic design degree. And then they were like, cool, see you later. I graduated by clicking submit on a website. Like that's brutal.
That is brutal. That is proper brutal, that.
So bad.
Especially, I mean, that isn't really, I can't imagine that's what you envisioned for yourself coming to the end of Central St. Martin's. Like, yeah.
No, it was absolutely crazy. And because it's such an international crowd as well, like there were loads, like it was half international students at least. So everyone was just like, I don't even know if I'm going to be staying in this country. Like, I can't.
Yeah, what did they do? I guess some went back and some stayed.
Awful flats in London. which is just dire. Like I was lucky.
That you could go home to your,
Yeah,
that
my
you could
parents
go to
had
your
like a
parents.
countryside village, so like it was actually quite wholesome and it was good weather. And but my mates were in London in their dingy little flats, sweating because it was boiling that summer. Sweating and not doing the degree show that they paid. No, that they paid so much money for, and then they're in this flat with horrible flatmates.
Yeah.
My
I was also in
God.
London at this time, but
Yeah.
I was quite lucky. I had a flat, but it was just me and my like now husband.
Hmm.
So we had our own flat, luckily, but we were in London at
Yeah.
that same time when like COVID hit. And I was about to start like a new job. Like I really wanted to go into fashion. I got a job at ASOS. It was maternity cover, and it was due to start like 3 days after the first lockdown got announced. And they just
Yeah.
called me and were like, "Yeah, because of this lockdown, we're just cancelling all the like maternity cover
Honestly,
or like thingy rolls." Yeah, and everything just stopped.
it was such a knife,
So
wasn't it? Like everything was like no. And then I was like, after graduating, just like applying to jobs and like cold emailing people because they're just and like the art scene just like left overnight. There just wasn't anything.
what was it like when you were trying to apply for
I got
jobs?
no replies. I applied for like hundreds of jobs and like no reply, nothing. I think I actually got a reply like a year later from one of them being like, "Oh, sorry, we actually just never fulfilled this role. This project got shut down." Because I did like my final project at uni, like partially used archiving. So I was also looking at like going into looking at like more behind the scenes roles in art galleries as well. So that was kind of stuff I was applying for. But then all the small junior roles were just like, well, we're not going to hire for them now. So they just didn't. And so that's why I retrained to be a nurse because I was like, I need financial security. And that was meant to get you a job. Let me tell you, currently it bloody doesn't. There's no jobs in the NHS right now. I don't know what's going on. I got told, always be a nurse, you'll always be employable. Why is my art being more successful now than that?
That's sick. That's good. That's a good thing.
Hey,
It's all come
excellent.
around the other side. Oh, loads of things we could talk about on what you just said. I'm gonna go back to like so you said there was like stuff to do with archiving, and I feel like is that something that you take inspiration of or like pull with you in your work
Yeah.
currently?
I love museums. I love like old art stuff. And like when we actually what was really cool is because the York Art Gallery has a huge ceramics collection. In my first year at Central, we came up and did a show up here in like response to the Anthony Shaw collection, and they took us behind the scenes into their archives, into the like massive warehouses filled with all these wrapped ceramics, and then also like human remains and stuff for the other side of their museum. And it was so cool. Like it was so cool. And that was when I was like, okay, right, this side of things is way more inspiring for me than, you know, I do like going to art galleries and I do find them really interesting, but it's about what the piece is about versus like necessarily just like the way that something looks visually. And I love the story of like an object being wrapped up and put into storage. And like, so Kerry Jameson's this ceramicist that I really liked, and a lot of her work is at York. And she does like really strange, like almost grim fairy tale figures, and they're like quite horrific, some of them. And they were like half wrapped in storage, and there's like half a head like wrapped, but then the body's not wrapped. So it looked really like eerie, and that was just so cool. And then so when I was doing my final piece, it was essentially about archiving my nan's house and this whole idea of like objects having so much significance to us and things we have in our home absorbing the like memories and stories that are created around them. And so the idea that like every day through just living in a space, you're archiving things. And I was kind of doing that through soundscapes and then through these pots that were like anthropomorphic. And yeah, I just loved the idea of memory and things that are uncanny and remind you of things that you've already experienced in art, I think is pretty cool, and archiving kind of falls into that quite heavily. And I
Yeah.
often like things that are like lots of parts. Like I love an
Yeah.
installation when there's lots of different things going on. I just think it's great.
Would you say that your paintings currently, your current work that you're working on right now, have that kind of influence?
Yeah, I think the idea of memory is a big thing in my work, and like the style that I've found is almost like it feels to me, the style of painting, like it's like you're experiencing like a really fleeting image, a fleeting memory, a fleeting feeling that's like there in the painting, and you're trying to get to it, but you can't quite get to it, you can't quite see it. So like the figures are quite distorted, and like it's also part of the process when I do make the paintings is that there is a certain level of lack of control that I have over it because of the wiping that I do at the end. Is it can be quite unpredictable. Obviously, it's not fully unpredictable because I do have some control over it, but I don't really have an idea as to what the end piece will exactly look like, and so it does come out of this, I don't know, like an otherworldly space, which I think that kind of works that way. And then also I think that the archiving again is part of like the idea of the collection, all looking very similar but different at the same time, and being quite a cohesive body of work.
I was going to say your work is so cohesive. The stuff that you're currently working on
Yeah.
for the Ossie show next week,
Yeah.
which I probably should point out actually at this moment in time in recording, it's the week before your exhibition.
Yes, it is.
Is it a week? It's literally a week tomorrow.
Yeah, it is. I know.
Yeah. It's good. Super exciting. It's the first exhibition put on at Ossie, I feel. Like contemporary art exhibition. And yeah, tell us a little bit about that and Ossie. I feel like we have lots to say about like York and its the art scene and like what's missing and things like that. But it'd be cool to just chat a bit about the exhibition you have coming up and
absolutely.
Ossie as a space.
Yeah, so Ossie. So I know Alice who runs Ossie Studios, and it's like a really creative place. It's a really creative space, and the way the vibe is, and she's really curated it to kind of encourage people to express themselves, whether it's her teachers that do all of the classes or her nail technicians or her hair technicians. She's always kind of encouraging that. And it's a beautiful space that they have on Coney Street. And she's always looking for like new things that she wants to do. And she's a Tadcaster girl, so she likes to keep it local. And we were kind of talking about art, and she was saying that it was always something that was kind of in the back of her mind to do is use it as an art space, because it's such a beautiful room. It's really light in there, and she's restored all the herringbone floors, and it just would work really well as an art space. So we kind of just said let's do it, let's get the ball rolling, and we're going to see how it goes. I think it's going to go really well. I'm really excited. We've done like we've got a preview night, so we've got like a guest list on that, and people have signed up, and I'm very excited. And I think, I don't want to obviously speak for Alice, but I think she is keen to kind of keep it going and do more exhibitions later down the line.
I hope so. I hope so, for the sake of York's art scene. The thing, this is, I think every like northern city or town, like there is an art scene. There are creative people there, and they have, and I guess each city has been built upon like certain types of art, or there are certain like creative even jobs that people have in certain cities that do well. And like in York, I feel like there is a great art scene and like independent like creative scene in terms of people are always, like even like pottery and things like that, and jewelry making, and like loads of like people do independent stuff. But in terms of like art galleries or exhibition spaces, there's literally York Art Gallery, which has an amazing, like the ceramics stuff there is like unreal. But even then, it's not like a huge gallery. It's not like there's masses of space for exhibitions, especially with like up and coming young contemporary artists. So I would really hope that Ossie would want to
Yeah.
continue
Well, and we were
doing
talking about
that.
the other day, like the lack of space in York because it's such an old city. The the bigger buildings have been turned into flats because it's not big enough to house the amount of people that live here. And so you're lacking that like industrial space for people to use for exhibition space or to use for studio space. So there's lots of people making independently in their own houses, but there's not a collective like changeover of exhibitions that's going on. It's very much like static museum exhibitions, or there are local artist galleries, but there again, it seems almost aimed quite firmly at tourism, which a lot
Yeah.
of your kind of seems to be aimed at. So yeah, I think it would be nice to have something contemporary and changing and young and feeling fresh, and yeah, it would be really
I
cool.
think so. I think that'd be so good. Even like things like the York Open Studios. Did you do that, by the way?
No,
The Open
I didn't know. I
Studios.
wasn't quite ready yet. I was still at Spark, so I did Spark Studios for a bit, and there's 5 of us in there, so it doesn't quite work for an open studio. I'm sure they would
Mm.
be open to it, but it is something that I have thinking about applying for this time because it's so much fun and it's such a good thing to have, like to be able to walk around people's studios around York is like it's amazing. And this year it was like really nice weather, so it was really really nice to go out and do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quite a lot of the studios are in people's houses or in people's
Yeah, and that's the
gardens.
thing. I think that it is everyone's hidden away and there isn't kind of space for people to, play with it and get to know each other. I think there are quite a few like art meetups that are happening. I know, I think it's at Patch, the co-working space. They do a few like local art meetups, but yeah, it would just be fun to have somewhere
Yeah, I think so. Also,
something.
like, yeah, but Ossie could be that. Ossie could be the
Yeah,
star.
I know. Oh my god.
It should, and that all just relates back as well to what you were saying at the beginning about the podcast that you did at uni,
Mm.
which almost acted like an art crit. And I think the importance of like artists being able to actually just be surrounded by other people's art because you can
Yeah,
feel like very
definitely.
secluded.
Yeah,
And even though York is like it's a small city, but I think probably the ratio of people who are creative or painters or artists in different varieties is probably actually quite high. Just
yeah,
just based on like speaking to people and just being out and about in like the open studios, for example. So it would be really cool to have a space that I don't know was able
yeah,
to
absolutely.
host art like from
Yeah,
artists like
like
yourselves who are like late
yeah.
20s, early 30s.
Yeah,
You know,
definitely. And I think like Zach and Lydia, who do rock art and ceramics in the studio on off Bushy Road, they've done a great thing with their space and like having kind of revolving exhibitions. And I
yep,
think that's a really important thing. And like she's done a great thing there for York because that is something that needs to be shown off more. And also
definitely.
something for people to, you know that there's new stuff coming.
Yeah, I think that's like encouraging at least. 'Cause that's
Mm.
another thing. Like if I think with art, it's hard because a lot of it has to come from like within yourself and know that you're creating it for yourself. But at the same time, if there's like nothing going on, like there has to be like some kind of ambition there as well, or
Yeah,
like strive to like
definitely.
create something. I feel like you're quite an ambitious person. I get that vibe from you.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't sit still very long. I am quite an ambitious person. I think that I would love everyone to be ambitious. I think it's a good thing. I think that we all have something to offer and I think go for it. I think why not?
So with your painting at the moment,
Mm.
obviously you studied ceramics or pottery.
Yeah.
So have you always painted, or was that something that was kind
Yeah.
of like
So I've
the
I've
ceramics
always
was
quite
rooted, or
yeah, so I've always painted just because it's accessible. I think paint is a really accessible medium and you kind of go from as kids like drawing into painting and
Mhm.
I've always kind of found it quite fun. Like I love art that's a bit messy, hence clay is fun because you just get absolutely covered in it. And even with my paintings, I still get absolutely covered in it, even though it's a flat canvas. I do come out like with it all over, and I think that is really fun. And I'm kind of essentially got more seriously into painting because of access. Ceramics is really hard because you have to have a kiln, or you have to have a reason to be making unfired stuff. So I did a lot of unfired stuff at uni because it was for shows. But if you don't really have anywhere to show it, it disintegrates and it's so fragile that there's not really much point. So then what I was doing was essentially waiting for me and my partner were looking for somewhere to get so that we could have some outdoor space so that I could have a shed, have a kiln, or have a garage and a kiln. So I started doing painting, and I've always loved oil painting. I really love Renaissance art. I really love classical paintings. And so I just thought now is as good a time as any as to learn that and to hone that skill. I've always done paintings alongside ceramics. So a lot of my sketchbooks would have like painterly work in order to express what I was trying to do with the ceramics. But this is the first time that I've really played with canvas and played with scale of my paintings, and I think created a collection of paintings rather than just kind of one-offs testing things. And I think like all art things, you start often early on with a lot of copying other people's work, and this is the first time where I've really felt like this is my own style and my own type of work. I often like to think about technique more than the finished outcome. So like there's a specific technique that I use of keep the paint really, really wet, and then at the end then wipe across it, which creates the blurred images. And in ceramics, I only ever really used coiling. I don't really like throwing, but I often scaled up a lot of my work, made it very, very big. And this repetitive movement of the wiping and of the coiling, I think, is quite meditative, and I really enjoy that. And I think that kind of is where my practice in ceramics and my practice in art joins together.
I think so. Sounds like really cohesive.
Yeah,
It does.
I hope so.
It sounds great.
I hope
No, it
so.
does. And also, it seems super unique. Like, I've not seen anything like it. It feels really contemporary, but you can also really tell that it's like got classical painting
Yeah,
inspiration. It literally reminds me of my like great nana had this like painting on her wall, and it was like of like lily pads with like girls sat around like in white cotton dresses, like looking in like into a pond with all these lily pads. Do you know what I mean? And it literally reminds me of that. It was like to me that was like old classical painting, and your painting reminds me of that, but but it does have like some kind of contemporary twist to it, which I love.
And I think it's really hard because like I make very classical ceramics. Like the shapes, I was doing a lot of vases, and the shapes that I do are very classical. And I love classical paintings, but obviously to paint like the masters, like that is insane. Like I would love to do that. Like I really want to go on like some really intensive like painting courses where they don't let you even touch paint. They're like, you have to do charcoal until you're good enough to paint, that kind of thing, like you're a kid in school. But I think then I was like, okay, well maybe I'll try some more abstract stuff. But hey, it's so hard to just like try and paint an abstract. That's like people who can just like pull that's amazing to me, because I was trying to do it and I felt like such a fraud. I was like, this is so hard. Like, what? I'm trying to like evoke an emotion into the paint, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. But then it was really nice to go back to what I would really enjoy, which I do really enjoy doing life drawing and painting nudes. And so I started putting a lot of that into my paintings, and then finding this technique of the wiping away, and I think that specifically came from wanting to learn oil paintings and using that as a medium. And there's so much that you can play around with of the way that you use oil paintings and the way that you manipulate them that I just love. And that's where this has kind of come from. Yeah, it was a bit of an accident, to be honest, but I've really fallen in love with it.
I mean, you can tell that you really love this style of painting and the body of work that you've produced. And you talked a little bit about like memory. Are these paintings that you create, are any of them like actually from memory? Like usually there's like a figure or a place.
So I think it's more that I'll start. I listen to a lot of audiobooks and like investigative documentary stuff while I'm painting, and I'll kind of pick the form that I want and sketch it out and know that like, okay, so I know that I want this one to be more water based. I want this one to be more like on land because they're kind of all in nature, but I'm using this kind of greens and blues. But I know that there's like water ones and there's land ones, and so I'll make that decision and kind of come up with the composition and sketch it out, and then I'll put my headphones in and kind of zone out while I paint the whole thing. And then it's only really when I do the swipe across and stand back that it kind of shows me what it is, because sometimes the details that you put in completely get taken away when you wipe across. So it doesn't end up necessarily looking the way that you thought it would. And that's when I think the memory side of it comes up. It's almost like I wipe it across and then it's like, oh, that's that. Like that's that moment, that's that feeling, versus having it completely planned out. It's almost like it's telling me what it wants to be. But do you know what I mean? It sounds what my mum would call art wank, but that is how I feel. I'll say stuff like that to my mum, like the painting just reveals itself to me, and she'll be like, "What are you talking about?"
Oh no, I love it.
It does. But like, and in that way, it's really similar to clay, because like clay, when people work with clay, they talk about clay having memory, and the idea that if you push it the wrong way, it will remember that, and when you fire it, it will almost come back to it. Obviously, you have more control about it, but there is this whole idea that it will become what it wants to be, and that's the art wank of it, and that's how I feel about my paintings.
A very valid point there. I'm really like painting a really good image in my head of all of your like influence and work. I would love to see you make pottery. Like, I'd love to see that from you.
Yeah.
Do you think you ever will get back into it?
Yeah, definitely. And like I do intend on, and there's this amazing ceramics event in Stoke-on-Trent every 2 years. It's the British Ceramics Biennial. And we went to it quite a few times. Well, twice, because it was biennial, while I was in Central St Martin's, and it's amazing. And there's so many different installations and static pieces throughout. And I'd love to apply to do some work for that. And I have like things in the back of my head that I would want to like bring to fruition. Because I do love working with clay, and I think it's a really interesting material. Yeah, and I don't necessarily play to be fired as well, which when I'm doing exhibitions, it lends itself to more.
Yeah, I was going to say the good thing about being in York is that you could probably definitely find somebody who'd be like, hey, I've got a kiln you can use, and hey, I've got this space you can use.
Yeah.
Because there do seem to be a lot of ceramicists around York. Would you say that's the reason you came to York? Because you've like found a home here, and like you like obviously we both live in York, so we are obviously here for a reason.
So obviously moved out of London because of the pandemic, and then was like, oh my gosh, was I having a panic attack for the time that I was living in London? I don't think people realise how overstimulating it is. And then I left, and I was like, oh my gosh, that was actually like really brutal to live there, and living in terrible apartments. And I was working like 2 jobs in order to get myself through the degree. And then after I finished, I was working so many jobs in order to just be able to think about staying in London. And then I decided to retrain to be a nurse for some stability, and applied to a couple different places. And my mum's a Scouser, so I've always loved being in the north. I've got like family in Huddersfield and family in Preston, and in Liverpool. So I've always really liked it, and applied to quite a few northern unis and got accepted into York and then into Greenwich in London. And I was like, I don't want to go back to London. So went up to York, love the city. I just think it's so, I love history. So I love the walls. I love the old buildings. I think it's just beautiful. And then on top of that, I really enjoyed the community feel of York. I think that northern people are more friendly for a start, but then also people know each other and will stop you and say hi to you if they've met you a few times. And you see people passing in the street that you know, versus in London, I feel like I rarely bumped into people. So it just feels like you're living in a small borough in London. And then there's a lot of independent businesses in York, which I really, really like. I love the fact that we've not got a lot of chains. It's not that way inclined. And that kind of sets it apart. And then after I graduated from nursing, me and my partner went up to Glasgow for his job. And also some of my friends from London had moved back to Glasgow because they were from there. And we lived in the south side of Glasgow, and it's amazing. If anyone hasn't been to Glasgow, you have to go. It's such a good city. Like, it's so much fun. But it still feels quite big. And I think we just missed York. We really like the fact that it feels so like you're in a small community, and then also you're close to nature at the same time. I really like going out in nature. I really like walking. I can't just live in a city where it's really busy and overstimulating all the time. It just kind of does me in, and then I don't function very well. Versus York has that balance of like, I can walk everywhere in the city in 20 minutes, and that's great. I don't need to be, bumping into everyone every 5 minutes, except for around Christmas time when it's absolutely hell and you can't even go to the centre of York. But that's for another time.
That is, yeah, it's actually crazy here. My birthday's in December, and it is like, I remember for my 30th, like, trying to get all my friends to all come visit York, and they were like, have you seen how expensive the hotels are? It was like insane. Because everyone just it seems like the whole country/world come to York for Christmas. It's just bizarre.
Like, it's crazy. I think also another thing that's great is that York is so well connected. Like, we were talking about this the other day, the fact that you can go down to London, you can go to Edinburgh, you can go to Manchester, and you're in this connection of all of that is great. And it means that you can go down and see theatre, because that's another me and my partner talk about how sad it is that York doesn't have like an amazing theatre scene. Like, I loved going to see theatre when I was in London. So it's nice to have those connections but still be away from it. And yeah,
totally. I think that is one good thing about York as a northern city that maybe sets it apart from others, is it's like, it's actually really well connected.
If exhibitions were to be starting to like be set up in York more, like, people can get here. It's not hard to get to. And so, like, I've got friends coming for my show from Glasgow and from London because it's easily accessible. Like, the trains are good enough-ish sometimes when they run.
It's pretty decent, but that is the cool thing about York, is like where it's situated, for sure.
And it's also connected to like all the other northern cities. Like, going to Sheffield is like so easy. You can go off to Hope Valley and go hiking and like in an hour and a half. Like, that's great.
So good. And like, Leeds is like 20 minutes. You can get that fast train to Leeds. It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think you would be making this kind of artwork if you were still in London?
I think that there is a style that comes out of living in urban areas, especially like my partner has there's this very specific style that my partner will call flesh work. And we'll go into a museum and he'll be like, oh, it's a fleshy piece, I can't do it. It's just all the like slightly grotesque, like, body horror art that you see, a lot of like latex stuff. I love it. I think it's great, but I think that's a very urban-y thing that comes out. Yeah, I just think that's really funny. And then I think also there's a lot so my friend did some lecturing at Leeds Art Uni for the first year students after he'd graduated, and he talks about liminal spaces being like a curse word, because every first year student would come in and be like, I'm going to do a project about liminal spaces, because they were living in urban environments and like that is like everywhere. Or there was a lot of like, I'm going to do stuff about the underground rave scene and like seeing the same themes come up within like cities art students, because that's what is meant to be like cool, that's what's meant to be trendy. And so a lot of the work then becomes people operating and talking about the same themes and not kind of expanding beyond that. And I think also in a city you don't really have space to think. I think sometimes if you do see too much of other people's artwork, because like I was going to shows all the time when I was in London, but it meant that then I think you end up almost taking on other people's themes into your own work versus having space and time to really think about creating your own cohesive body of work that feels like it's yours versus feels like you're trying to fit into the London scene or the Manchester scene. You know, I think being in nature gives me that time to think and reflect on what I want my art to look like and not what I think other people would be interested in looking at.
Yeah. And through that, you've then created a great body of work that people actually want. Like we started this recording, but I wasn't recording yet, and I wish I was, of you going, how fucking self-op it is. Do you know what I mean? Like you've already which round of applause on the mic.
Thank you so much. Thank you, darling. Thank you. Yeah, that was mad. That was actually nuts. I launched the pre-exhibition sale today because I've been using social media to grow everything, which is a blessing and a curse, really, because oh my god, is it soul destroying? But it's such a good tool. It's free. It's like it gets you exposure, and it's a lot of work, and like you do have to really keep up consistency with it. And I've been consistently doing Instagram and TikTok stuff for about a month and a half or something, and I've seen the growth and the change in that. And I essentially had just made a mailing list off of the back of people asking about purchasing the work, and then sent out my website to the mailing list to talk about purchasing, and have actually like made sales from it. So it's not wasting your time doing it. It is kind of worth it, which is kind of infuriating because I'd really love to just throw my phone in a river, but
that's the annoying thing now. No, I saw, and I can't remember who it was who said it, but it was someone on like Subway Takes, and they said about how like every creative person to actually make the thing that they want to make, they have to be a million other things as well, and one of those things is social media, content creator, like, because you just literally have to. And there's a writer that I really love who I actually spoke to on the first season of this podcast called Heeeeere, and she like recently did a Substack that was like, I literally, when I see like a budding writer like pick up a mic, like an angel loses its wings. When you know, like there's like social mates and they have to like talk about it. But it's true. It's like it's but at the same time, and interestingly enough, I just did record another episode with an artist, a Leeds-based artist called Jenny Beard, and she was talking about social, saying the exact same thing as you. She's like, if you actually do it, it pays off. Yeah, and that's the thing. People want to see art and want to engage in art. People want to buy art. Like people do want to.
And this is the thing as well, is it makes it mad accessible. Like it means that if you have a phone, you can see art, you can see upcoming artists, you can see galleries, versus it before being like behind closed doors at the Tate Modern, where you can't, as an artist, you can't get into it unless you know people, or as a person who's interested in art, you can't get into it unless you're literally there in that moment. Now it means that people can see it. And I think also the encouragement online to be creative, and well, my algorithm anyway, I don't know about everyone else's, but your algorithm encouraging you to pursue things and to learn things. And I was listening to a really interesting podcast about like the TikTok algorithm and the idea of it's one of the first social medias to promote like learning. It wants you to be on there and want to be learning things and want to be curious about things, and that's how it keeps you hooked, which props to them because we're all bloody hooked, aren't we? But which is a bad thing and a good thing, but it bloody works. And if you can find a way to, you know, drop into that and offer something genuine, I think that it can be a really useful tool.
And you can create your own algorithm, can't you? Like if what you engage with is ultimately what is going to show to you. So if you want to use it in that way, then
yeah. And also like, but there is a point where I really have to battle with, I don't film everything. I don't film every day, because otherwise I can feel that I'm making the art for TikTok, not for my art. Like, and there are certain things that the algorithm will respond to that I just am like, I won't invest my time in doing this all of the time. Like, I'm not gonna be like, come with me to paint my painting, because it's just self-destroying.
never say never, Em. You never know. You might be doing one.
I know, that's the thing. I've done a few like talking ones, and every time like I'll just text my mates being like, what am I doing? What is going on?
You've just got to
You've got
eat the
You've got to
cringe.
respect the hustle, man. You've got to go for it. Like,
Eat cringe for breakfast. That's what I say. You've just got to do it.
But yeah, but I think there is a balance, and like it is about, you know, when I make the art, I want to make it from somewhere that's real, not from somewhere that's like for the wider algorithm. But it is for other people, and really at the other side of those algorithms are other people, and you are connecting with them in their own homes, and that is something that's really nice and really important.
I think so. I think that's a lovely way for us to wrap up, because we could talk for ages, I think, but we're coming on to 50 minutes now, so we probably should. I could actually talk to you for ages about your work, and I think you've been very successful in what you're set out to do, and I personally love it, and I can't wait to go to the exhibition next week.
So exciting!
I always end the podcast every episode with a question about your take on making it and whether you feel like you've made it when it comes to the artwork, or your take on the phrase of making it.
Well, I feel like I've already made it, to be real. No, I don't know. I think it's funny because I know that from going to the art school that I did, I am a massive snob when it comes to art. I know that. My friends will make fun of me about it, but I am a massive snob about art, and there is a particular, I think, credibility and authenticity to art that to me is what is about making it. It's about being like, you know, truly something that I think you can tell with paintings when someone's invested and when someone's just trying to make something good. And I think that's part of making it, and feeling honest in the work that you're doing. But then I also, me and my friend were talking about, he does graphic design and is currently writing a graphic novel, and he was doing like corporate graphic design, and he was like, okay, I'm good at it. I could make a lot of money doing corporate graphic design, or I could work a kind of rubbish job and come home every night and do my graphic novel and write. And that to me feels like a way more fulfilling life than making brand advertisements for Nike, you know? So I think that it's also about that. It's about living in a way that feels authentic to the art that you're doing, and that would be making it. But then also there is that part of you that's like, making it is having a solo show in New York that's like, I sell every piece. That would be amazing. But I think that there's also the way that you talk about your art and the way that you're invested in your art, and that's making it as well. I think there's different stages, but I mean, it also depends on, you know, what day of the week you talk to me about this, because I could next week be like, I'm miles away.
I feel like I've caught you on a really good day, like on a real good success day. You sold your paintings, your shows next week.
And that's what it is. It's about the exciting moments. You work really hard for art, and it's a lot of internal dialogue with yourself. And when you finally get to share it and people respond well, I just think it's great. It's a good feeling, and it makes it worth it.
A lot of hours put into it as well. All those hours of working, it's all going to come to this ending, which is so nice.
Yeah. A lot of my poor partners standing outside my workshop being like, can I come in and say hello? And I'm like, I'm busy.
This is work. Okay. Well, I think that's a lovely place to end. And this episode hopefully will be out just before your exhibition. And Ellis and I from Up North will be there. So there'll be some coverage on Up North as well of your exhibition. So it'll be a nice full circle
So excited.
editorial piece.
Can't wait. Can't wait.
Yeah.
Great.
Thanks so much for coming on. Really loved chatting with you.
Thank you
And I'll
very
see you
much.
soon.
Yeah, I can't wait to see you there. Bye.
Thanks. Bye. Hello, it's me again. Thank you for listening to that first episode of season 2 of Have You Made It? If you head over to Up North magazine on Instagram, you'll see a bunch of other coverage that we've done with Em and also for her exhibition that we talk about in this episode at Ossie. So yeah, next episode is coming soon with Leeds-based Barnsley artist Jenny Beard. Can't wait to share it with you. So thanks again for listening and we'll catch you next time.